Sharon saved her supply chain from cyber risk and ended the office goat debate.
In the United States. Now, this new export control was new to us, but it looked familiar to our next guest because he says he helped to write the thing when he was working with Congress. Kit Conklin is here with us, former senior advisor to the House Select Committee on China, currently a senior vice president at Exiger, which is an AI supply chain company. And that's what I call a good story in many ways, Kit. If you could, so I saw this morning. I saw Nvidia stock down. I said, this came out of Commerce, the Commerce Department. But you said it kind of looked familiar. Tell us the story.
The Select Committee on China has been thinking about AI export controls for years, and they were looking at companies like DeepSeek long before the announcement this morning. And so some of the policy recommendations that were bipartisan date back to 2023. And if you look at the controls the administration just announced on some of the just below cutting edge chips today, it's straight out of the Select Committee's policy recommendation playbook.
And you said it was bipartisan?
That's right.
So they, so that's kind of interesting because there's been a lot of back and forth on this, and even Democrats hitting the president on trade policy in general. But this is something that the Democrats really can't come out against because they supported it. Was it widespread support for it at the time?
That's right. And if you look back at how we got here, it dates back to Trump 1 and his restrictions against Huawei. The Biden administration took those restrictions and expanded them. And then now we have Trump 2, obviously. And the administration is continuing to build through that bipartisan support for strengthened export controls on these particular types of chips.
Oh, that's an interesting backstory. So so it goes back to the Huawei story. Okay, so Nvidia, I mentioned this in the introduction, but let me put it up from their filing. So how big a deal is this in your view, as you look at it? They say they require this license for export to China, and this was in their SEC filing, and the other countries or to countries headquartered with an ultimate parent therein, and they say this is going to have an impact. They basically say that their first quarter results are expected to include up to $5.5 billion in charges related to all of this. So I don't know. Is that, NVIDIA's a big company, though. Is this a big deal?
It's significant for any company that, but it shouldn't come as a surprise that export controls on AI chips are now taking place. As a reminder, the Chinese side actually were the first to introduce export controls during this particular part of the trade war on critical minerals, which, Connell, you and I have talked about before. So this is an actual continuation of some of those export control tit-for-tats that we're seeing. Whether it's significant for their bottom line, obviously NVIDIA is a huge company and they have lots of clients around the world. But this particular restriction should come as no surprise to anyone in the chip industry.
Are we headed towards what used to be talked about? I'm sure when you're the China Select Committee, they used to use this word all the time, decoupling for real between the two countries. I mean, back then, well, we can't. We're too intertwined. But, the more of these things add up, is that the end game here, or that's just impossible?
I think we'll continue to see de-risking across critical national security-related sectors. I don't think we'll see a complete decoupling over the next year or 2 years or 5 years. There's still so much supply chain interdependence for the economies, but I certainly think the increased pressure on those critical infrastructure sectors, AI, for example, Exiger, we just published a report on a Chinese company called DeepSeek and their connections to the Chinese military. And that type of analysis really will drive more policy to restrict some of these technologies and tighten up supply chains. But I don't think we're heading towards a complete decoupling overnight by any means.
All right, so it's great having you on this because you have so much knowledge of it. You know the inside game. Who knew as much as you did? So did they change the language, Commerce Department, or they just kind of copy pasted, or how did it look when you read it? You must have been like, hey,
it certainly wasn't a copy and paste. They did a lot of work on this. It's quite technical.
Oh, good. I thought I didn't want to have another story to break. Kit Conklin, thank you, sir. As always, we'll talk to you again on China. President Trump.